Well, hello everybody. Welcome to the Gary Neville podcast on a freezing cold evening at Tottenham Hotspur. Off the back, though, for Spurs of a warming 1-0 win against Manchester United. Spurs, Gary on the day, had big stars back. Manchester United all of a sudden have a lot of stars missing. Was that the key to the game, or was there more to it than that?
No, I don't think either team. Look, at the end of the day, Tottenham have got players missing, United had players missing, so they were probably equal in that department. Tottenham maybe got more players missing than United. I thought first half Tottenham were far better. I thought the just general performance levels, and I think both teams are in similar positions at the moment. They started this game, I think Tottenham in United 14th, United 14th, Tottenham in 15th. So they're both having very poor seasons. But when you watch Spurs play, you still can see that the players, know what they're doing. They play to a system. The passing's quite attractive. I thought some of the play in the first 25 minutes was fantastic, and I think that every time I watch Spurs and they go one goal up in that period, the surprise was that United didn't capitalise in the second half, when obviously United did play better, and Spurs have struggled recently to maintain leads at home. But going back to the first half, I thought just the style of play, speed of the play, and United had an imbalance today. And look, at the end of the day, United have got what they've got. They've got some kids on the bench. They've got Lindelof on the bench. So they had Xerxes, Højlund and Garnacho up top. But I felt what was asked of Bruno Fernandes in that first half in particular wasn't right. And meaning that the gaps in midfield with Casemiro means you can never get the ball back quickly. There was a point in the game where Tottenham had 76% of the ball. Now, obviously Tottenham are a good team on the ball, but if you can never lay a glove on someone, never get close to anybody, Tottenham always had that easy out pass to what ended up being the man of the match in Jed Spence. And he was man of the match, partly because he played well done to him, but partly because of the way United played, and they made it easy for him on this side, so he basically dominated the game in possession. So, yeah, I was disappointed with the way in which United set up in that first half. I know, look, Ruben Amorim has said, and maybe rightly so, and he's going to die in a ditch on this, I'm not going to change. I'm going to play this 3-4-3. And the 3-4-3 is a 2 behind a 1, narrow 2 behind a 1 and the 2 wing-backs, which is fine. But when today you've got 2 strikers, and you've got Garnacho obviously on one side on the left, against Newcastle when he played Xerxes as sort of in the pocket, it just didn't work at all. And if you remember, he was hooked after 25 minutes, and he had to go out to that, I think it was left-hand side that day against Newcastle, and it was awkward for him. So what Ruben Amorim has done is he overcompensated this time. He said, right, I can't have that again, fair enough. So you're going to stay narrow, and Bruno, you're going to get out over here to Jed Spence at left-back. The problem is with that, you've got Casemiro then left in midfield, and you've got your best player, Bruno Fernandes, doing an absolute shift out to basically close down a full-back and then having to get back in again. And I just didn't think that worked at all. It wasn't right from minute one. It was better in the second half, but certainly in the first half it just wasn't right. It was a standout feature for me.
It's really interesting to me, this, because you pros see these things that not everybody does, in fairness. And I just wonder what was better in the second half. And given that those were the 11 players he had available, and he was obviously going to play 3-4-3, how better deployed could they have been?
Well, it was interesting. I think it was about 5 minutes to go in the first half. I think Dalot, the right wing back, who was up on this side with Bruno, came over to speak to Ruben Amorim, and I think I saw Ruben Amorim saying, you push on. So what could have happened was Bruno could have stayed where he was, and Dalot could have gone higher, and that could have meant that one of the centre backs comes across into his space, and they could have compensated in that way. I thought it could have been dealt with better because it gives Spurs an easy footing in the game. I always remember when teams came to Old Trafford with an imbalanced team, which, say, left me open at right back. And you can hear them saying in the dressing room before the game, leave Gary Neville with the ball. One of the worst United players on the ball. Good tactic. However, I don't care how average the right back is or the left back is on the ball. If you give an easy out all the time to a good passing team, to a full back, it means you can never get a footing in the game. It means they've always got a way in which they can just basically have a safety net to get out against you. And Jed Spence was that in the first half. And sometimes it happens where you say leave a full-back on the ball, but not to that extent. So, I understand Ruben Amorim's problems. I understand the United players' problems in the sense that obviously they've got what they've got, and they've got a lot of young lads on the bench, and they maybe don't want to use them at this point in the season. It'd be tough for them. There must be a different solution. Split strikers is another way of dealing with it, or I don't know. There's just different ways of dealing with it. I just wouldn't have left Casemiro. I think they were lucky to get away in the first half with only being 1-0 down, even though Garnacho had an amazing chance.
Well, they did have chances, didn't they, United? And I suppose even as the big stars return for Spurs, they are still without their senior centre-halves. That was the point of vulnerability, and the story might have been different if United had taken those chances.
I mean, for United not to score today when Spurs basically haven't got three of their first choice back four, they haven't got Van de Ven, they haven't got Romero, they haven't got Dragusin, they haven't got Udogie. So you're thinking to yourself, you've got Ben Davies at centre-back, with Danso who's playing his first game. You've got Jed Spence who's played a few games obviously now for Spurs, quite a few at left back, but you're thinking, I mean, even towards the end I'm thinking United definitely will score here. I almost said it, I said I'd be amazed if there wasn't another goal, and I was thinking United are going to score here. I'm amazed they didn't do. I said before the game I actually featured Garnacho because I'd looked at his stats where I'd seen that he hadn't scored or assisted now in a Premier League game since November, which is 13 games, and he's one of United's most talented young players, and all young players go through a spell where they don't quite do well. And he's obviously had that hiccup as well with Ruben Amorim where he left him out, didn't he, as well, for the Manchester derby. But he had to take one of those chances today. He kept going, he always keeps going, he's tenacious. But he had some really big chances, and I think that's to me where the game was. You could tell it was two teams lacking in confidence. The Spurs crowd were waiting for United to score almost themselves. They were like sort of thinking, we know what's coming here, because they've seen it over the last few months. So I think at the end when the final whistle went, they were just so relieved. But we know it's a long way back for United. It's all been said. There is nothing more to say. But it's how quickly can Ruben Amorim not just get good players in of the right quality, but get players in who can fit into this system. It's a peculiar system, 3-4-3. It's a system where you've got to find two midfield players who are good enough to play with each other and cover a lot of ground. You've got to find three centre-backs, and to find three centre-backs meaning that two and the outside ones have got to be capable of going outside and playing wide areas when the in full-back areas when the wing-backs go forward. The wing-back positions are crucial, and then you're also asking for these two sort of pocket players behind the striker. So you're asking for specialists, I think, a long way throughout the team. It's not like other systems which are a little bit more forgiving. So how quickly can Ruben Amorim and the recruitment team at United get to a point whereby they can adapt this squad into a 3-4-3 squad? It's going to be a minimum of 2 or 3 transfer windows because of the investment that's been made, and we know the club's on the edge of PSR. They've lost 300 million in the last 3 years, so there's a real struggle and a real fight to be able to spend the money that they need to in the transfer market as well, because a lot of it's been wasted in the last few years.
Did you enjoy Spurs? James Maddison makes you smile, doesn't he?
Do you know something, actually, and I've said this over the last few weeks, and sometimes it can feel a bit patronising. It's one of the games that I always hope I get. Tottenham Hotspur, you're going to get a really good game of football because they play well, they pass well, they pass with purpose. Yeah, they're a little bit open, and sometimes you think they're absolutely mad in the way in which they play, but they do play football the right way. And I think football, I know it's about winning, but it's also about entertaining, and that's the challenge for United at the moment. They're not winning, they're not entertaining, but actually Spurs do entertain you. They actually do play a way of football, and they do create chances, and Son and Kulusevski and Maddison and Johnson and Tell, they've got something about them. They have got something about them. The fullbacks, Udogie when he plays, and Jed Spence today, and obviously Porro at right back, they've got a little bit of thrill, a little bit of innovation about them. So actually I like watching Spurs. Covered it before the game about Tottenham. And I think Ange Postecoglou will get to the end of the season now, because the 3 managers who've left this club recently are all 3rd, 2nd and 1st in the league, which is obviously Conte, Mourinho and Nuno in their respective leagues that they're managing in. So it's maybe a problem not for the coaches who are here, but maybe the way in which they're accepted at this club, and the fact that the expectation, or the way in which culturally it's not easy to coach at Tottenham. Has been and still is a losing mentality. I think Ange Postecoglou himself was frustrated with that last year, when it would seem that they almost wanted to, when they were playing Manchester City here, he was so frustrated with the fact that the fans wanted his team to lose, if you remember. And I think that sort of summed it up for him. So, look, lots to do at both clubs, both of them in the Europa League. They could end up in a final together. Let's hope that's the case. But there's a long way to go. But I like watching Tottenham. I can see what they're trying to do. It's sometimes a bit reckless in the style, but it's something that you enjoy and excites you. I think for United, yeah, I'm not sure.
No. And easy to believe, isn't it, after what we've just seen, and given that we know more players are coming back in the next week or two, easy to believe that Spurs should, between now and the end of the season, win more games than they don't.
Oh, Spurs' best 11 is a hell of a team. Oh, there's no doubt about that. If you put their best 11 out on the pitch more often than not, they'll win a lot of football matches. But that's the problem. I saw a stat before the game today which said that Spurs have had 4,200 sprints this season, which I think is something. I think someone told me it was like hundreds more than the next team, which were Bournemouth, who also had a lot of injuries. And then I think the next one was well behind. So there's a lot of demands physically on these Tottenham players, and maybe that's why the underlying issues occur with regards to the injuries that they've picked up, and then the re-injuries that have occurred as well. So, look, I think that's something that's going to hamper Tottenham if they don't deal with that. But if they can get some players back, keep them fit towards the end of the season, they will win a lot of football matches. Because they have got some very good players, and the two centre-halves, Van der Ven and Romero, are two fantastic young centre-backs when they play. OK, let's cover off Liverpool then, who actually were given a game, from what I saw. Maybe you saw it all. Given a little bit of a fright by Wolves today at the start of a massive week with Villa and then Manchester City to come. Yeah, it was a fright. I mean, it was a good day for Liverpool, and it was also a little bit of a good day for Arsenal, maybe, in the sense that, hang on a minute, Wolves are near the bottom of the league and Liverpool just got over the line today. But if you're Liverpool, you know you're not going to win every game well. You know that there's going to come a point where a team are going to just catch you out a little bit. And they've got two big games coming up now this week, Liverpool. They couldn't afford to drop points today. I think they needed to keep that pressure on Arsenal and that gap, because they might just, against Aston Villa away or City away, drop some points, which means that they need that cushion. But I think it'll give Arsenal a little bit of glimmer of hope that they didn't go from 2-0 up and go and win 4 and 5, which sometimes demoralises you and makes you think that, oh, hang on a minute, you can get them a little bit maybe. So yeah, I think good day for Liverpool in the fact that they won. They were hanging on a little bit at the end. It was a little bit sort of, wasn't desperate, but it was certainly a relief when they got into that. I think Endo made a tackle in the corner, and there was a celebration thinking that, we've got there, we're over the line. I think that's where the players felt that it could have gone wrong in that last 5-10 minutes because Wolves were at them.
Yeah, and two big games to come now, Villa and then City, who, when City are playing, and they will give Liverpool a game and a bit.
It'll be a tough game. I mean, irrespective of where City are currently at, and we'll talk maybe, I watched the first half yesterday, and Marmoush was fantastic. I really liked him in the first game we watched him the other week against Chelsea. There's certain players catch my eye just purely because he plays where I used to play, or in the area where I used to play, but on the opposite side. He's obviously left side forward and I'm right back, and he makes the runs that I wouldn't want you to make. Those really quick runs, that run he made inside Trippier for the first goal. I know Trippier got under it in the end, but making that run, you will get joy. Any left winger watching, any right winger watching, if you run hard and fast in between your fullback and your centre-back on a regular basis 4 or 5 times a half and continue to keep going in towards the box, you will get joy. I promise you, it's a fact, because the fullbacks hate it. The reason fullbacks hate it is that obviously the big decision for a fullback is, when do you let him go and play him offside, when do you actually, to be fair, follow him? And that's the challenge. So someone makes a run in between me and you, I'm looking across the line, the ball's going to get played, I'm thinking I don't want to go any deeper because I don't want to play, and then you just stay and then they go, or vice versa. It's a challenging one. So he makes great runs, and he's also got quality as well. I was really impressed with him.
That'll be a nice new dynamic in that rivalry, actually, won't it? Marmoush in that space with Trent or Conor Bradley or whatever. That's going to be a really interesting contest.
Yeah, and Liverpool have obviously got a game before then, but I did think of that yesterday. I thought this will be really interesting a week on Sunday when Trent Alexander-Arnold's playing against Marmoush, because he makes fantastic runs. I think Trent's going to have to really match him and make sure he's on his game. And whoever plays right centre-back for Liverpool is also going to have to watch out for it as well. And they're going to have to communicate really well with each other. Yeah,
interesting. Is Mikel Merino capable of being Arsenal's starting centre-forward?
They're going to have to come up with something. And look, I said before the game today in the Sky Sports Newscast, I have got very little sympathy for Arsenal. They knew at the start of the season that they were short in centre-forward. They knew that they might be, if Havertz got injured, that they were in a position where they didn't have the quality up top. So they've known about it. They've also had 2 title races, so they know what it's like. So this is not an inexperienced team anymore. It's not an inexperienced manager, and it's not an inexperienced situation for them to be in. So I always say that ultimately, did you know that this could have happened before the start of the season? Yeah. Could it have been foreseen? Yes, it could. You know, we knew that Arsenal lacked goals up top and a top centre forward. I'm not saying they should have gone desperately buy one, but they knew in the January transfer window that there was an issue there. Again, couldn't get any business done. So this could have always happened. It has happened. I thought it might be Declan Rice coming from behind and from midfield and going forward, and Jorginho and Partey might be deeper, or even Mourinho and Partey might be deeper. But it's ended up that Mourinho's obviously gone forward and he's been the one that's the threat in the box. Sometimes good can come out of what seems to be bad, and you can sort of develop something together. It's going to be tough for Arsenal. They were playing against Leicester in the bottom three yesterday, and they're going to have tough games coming up. So I wouldn't say it's all plain sailing, because they scored with 10 minutes to go and then obviously a little bit later than that. But it was a good moment for them. They have to find a way. No excuses. When you've been in a title race for 2 years on the bounce, you spent hundreds of millions, you knew you had a slight weakness at centre forward, you can't act all surprised when you sort of 10, 15 games to go and you're in a title race and you think, oh, feel sorry for yourselves. That's not the way in which it can be, and I'm sure Mikel Arteta's not feeling that way either.
No. Well, I think that's all the business, Gary, so if I may just say so.
How cold is it,
It's
Peter,
very
this
cold.
weekend? Oh
It's
my
very
God.
cold.
Can't believe it.
If I may say so, 50 is the new 30. I can tell you that from experience. So have a wonderful, wonderful week. Try to relax.
I will.
And have a happy birthday.
Thank you very much, Peter.
Cheers.
Thank you so much. Thank you.